We are so excited you're here. What a great crowd tonight. This is our Trinity University Food for Thought series, and I'm Mike Bacon. I graduated from Trinity in the class of 1989, and I am so pleased to be serving as the Vice President for Alumni Relations and Development. I want to say welcome to all of you tonight. Let me see if I can make this so I don't have to hold it. This is the third Food for Thought lecture that we've had this semester, and we're really honored to have two of our respected Trinity professors, Dr. Cabral Balreira and Dr. Jacob Tingle. They're going to be talking tonight about, as you can see, projecting the results of competitive sports and March Madness.
And I am happy to be here to introduce two professors that I've had the pleasure of interacting with the last 4 or 5 years. We have Dr. Cabral Balreira. I always remember it by Balreira. Dr. Jacob Tingle. What makes Trinity so special is not only what they do in the classroom, but their genuine concern for the students. I know a couple of them are here tonight with us, and they really care the learning is both in the classroom and develop them for future success in life. So that really what makes it special. Thank you to the professors. Let's learn a little bit more about him. Cabral, he graduated with a BA in mathematics from Lander University in South Carolina in 2001, an MS in 2004, and a Ph.D. in 2006 in mathematics from the University of Notre Dame. Arrived at Trinity as assistant professor in 2006, an associate professor started in 2012. His research focused on differential topology and discrete dynamics. He has a passion for sports, which I'm thinking that a number of you probably have tonight based on the attendance. But what he did in 2004 was develop the Oracle method for doing sports predictions. And that he involves his students in this method in the sports technology and athletics seminar, or analytics seminar, where they learn about the math behind the Oracle, how to make predictions, and how to develop their own methods. I got a very good email from Cabral in December 2015 when he said our matchup, the Alamo Bowl between Oregon and TCU would be our closest matchup in history. And 3 overtimes later, he was right. Congratulations, Cabral. Dr. Tingle, joining him tonight, definitely shares his passion for sports and goes above and beyond. I was at the Symposium for Sports a month ago, and all night long, they were emailing students during the presentation, tweeting at them. They really do care about the students and developing them. He came to Trinity in 1995. He has a BA in Religion and Communication. After working at the University of Maryland for 5 years, Dr. Tingle returned to San Antonio. He's got an MA in Administration from the University of Incarnate Word, a doctorate in Education Leadership from the University of Texas at San Antonio. From 2000 to 2009, Dr. Tingle worked in the Trinity Athletic Department. He spent 4 years as the Assistant Athletic Director and then 5 as the Associate Athletic Director. In 2009, he became a member of the Business Administration faculty at Trinity, where he created the Sports Management minor. His research focus is on organizational systems and how those structures impact employees, volunteers, and those served by the organizations. A nice compliment to Cabral's math. He's the co-chair of Arts, Letters, and Enterprise major at Trinity. In February of 2015, Trinity made the very wise decision to hire Dr. Tingle to start Trinity's Office of Experiential Learning and co-direct the Center for Experiential Learning and Career Services. And I know personally that the students I've seen over the last 2 years have done a great complement of both their rigorous coursework with what they've learned and some real-world experiences and how they're very aggressive in their networking and really starting them off for career success. So with that, please welcome Dr. Cabral Balreira and Dr. Jacob Tingle, who will start today's seminar.
All right, Rick, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. For those of you who don't know, I've known Rick for 20 plus years, and so I appreciate the G-rated introduction there. Thank you. Before we get started, I'd like to recognize and introduce one other person who's going to be able to be speaking with us tonight. Liza, if you would stand up. We're fortunate to have Liza Southwick. She's a graduating senior at Trinity, All-American tennis player, just kind of generally All-American awesome. and a lot of the stuff that Cabral and I are going to be talking about is the idea of shaping students for their future. And so we thought, what better way to end our talk than to have one of the students who's been impacted by some of the things that we've been trying to do. So we're really fortunate and lucky to have Liza here. So before I get started, again, I'd just like to thank Broadway Bank, and I am a loyal Broadway Bank customer, so if you need good stories about Broadway Bank, I have a lot of them. Right, it's my corporate shill right there, but it's true. We are thrilled to be here with you tonight. And when I say the word March Madness, I'm guessing that this is the image that a lot of you think of, right? A stadium filled with too many people cheering for young men, young women who have put their hearts out on the line, right? When I hear the word March Madness, however, this is the image that comes to mind for me, right? All of the moving parts that go into making one game, let alone an entire tournament that spans the entire United States, right? We have referees, we have security, equipment, facility operations, game management, sponsorship activation, ticket sales. All of these things go in to making a successful game and a successful tournament. When Cabral hears the word March Madness, he immediately thinks about all the math involved. How are the teams seeded? Who has the greatest likelihood of winning? Does the location of the quote-unquote neutral site have any impact on the game's outcome? So though Cabral and I come from different academic disciplines, we have a shared passion for sports and a shared passion for teaching that has brought us to Trinity. And it's where those concentric circles overlap that will be the focus of tonight's talk. Though you will likely leave tonight's talk still thinking about this image when tournament time rolls around, our hope is that just maybe for one shining moment, good, thank you, all right, while you're missing work on Thursday, March 16th to watch the second round of the tournament, just maybe this is how you'll view the screen, all right? Thank you for those of you who actually pay attention to the end of the Final Four for the one shining moment, good. So, the question that Cabral asked a few years ago, how do we teach linear algebra, R, MATLAB, regression in a way that's fun? I still don't know the answer to that question, but I think we've gotten it, right? So what developed and what evolved was the Sports Technology Analytics at Trinity, the STAT seminar. In that seminar, we teach students about sports rankings. Students learn about mathematics and coding. Students work, and most importantly from my standpoint, students get their hands dirty. They work on real projects with real data, with real organizations, with real teams. So the ultimate goal of the STAT seminar is to develop the skills of a data scientist as much as can be done at the undergraduate level via experiential learning. And the STAT seminar, again, we'll focus on a couple of these in a minute, but all of our students have an opportunity to make some real-world decisions with real data, some of which, and we'll look at one in a minute when you look at the Valero-Alamo Bowl matchup this year, that we don't get right, and that's good, right? That's the value of doing these projects as undergraduate students, is to get that experiential learning. So as I mentioned, we're wanting to create data scientists through this program. What is a data scientist? I think that's important to frame that for you. From a content standpoint, right, if you look at the Venn diagram, we have mathematics and computer science. This is the stuff that they learn in those courses, right? In our mathematics courses and our computer science courses, this gives us the content. The domain expertise is the context through which we're going to apply the mathematics and the computer science. Additionally, one of the things we want to make sure our students understand in the STAT seminar is this idea of what is analytics, right? And we use that term is used a lot in modern culture, and so we want to make sure our students really understand that analytics empowers organizations to make better decisions, to improve their processes, and to achieve more desired, better outcomes. It brings together data management, analytical methods, and the presentation of results, often within a closed-loop environment for continuous improvement. So we want our students to understand that they're learning the content in this context and what could potentially be outcomes for them. The thing that excites me most about what Cabral does in the STAT seminar and the guest speakers that he brings is what they're learning, the skills that they're learning, the techniques that they're using are the same techniques that helps Amazon and Netflix make the predictions for what our next great show is going to be. And I don't know about you all, but Netflix is eerily on to what I'm into, right? And I've gone down the rabbit hole in terms of like Finnish crime shows that are absolutely right on that I would have never landed on, right? It's true, Devlin. It's like crazy. But what they're learning in the STAT seminar, the domain expertise, the context is sport, which might be a little bit more fun for many of our 18 to 22-year-olds than predicting what movies somebody's going to want to watch, or because you bought this book, you might also like this book. But that's the key for me, is that they're learning skills and techniques that will apply to industry outside of the world of sport. So how do we do this? One of the things that we talk about is the idea of a 5-tool player. Any baseball folks out there, can somebody tell me maybe we can't get all 5 of the tools, but what are a couple of the tools of a 5-tool player? Any baseball folks? Batting, hitting for power, hitting for average, stealing bases, right? Running, fielding, and then throwing, right? So this is our 5-tool player. And I had to put Mike Schmidt because my son, who's 8 years old, just got drafted in kid pitch by the Phillies. So I'm hoping that he learns from the best there. But this idea of the 5-tool player, a colleague of mine at South Florida, Mike Mondello, came up with this idea. And so what we're trying to do with our students in the STAT seminar is create for them the idea of being a 5-tool player, being one of the greatest. We build to that, right? So who gets the jobs? Again, Mike Mondello says you generally find that people who are great at gathering data, people who are great at modeling data and running stats, don't ask the right questions, and they can't communicate the results in front of leadership teams. That is a 5-tool player, and that person is really hard to find. So one of the things we do at the beginning of every year with the STAT seminar is ask the students and get them to focus on this idea of who gets the jobs. And we frame it for them in this idea that it's the 5-tool player. You have to be able to ask the right questions. A lot of times in the data analytics world, in the data scientist world, the mathematicians, the computer scientists are actually the smartest people in the room, right? Literally the smartest people in the room. And sometimes what that means is we go in assuming we know how to solve your problem. We go in assuming I know what you need from me. And what that often ends up leading to is bad outcomes, bad results. I have to ask questions of you. What is it that you need the data to tell you? What is it that you need from me? I then collect the correct data, and this is where Cabral comes in. I have to be able to understand, I have a sufficient understanding of the analytical procedures. I have to be able to interpret those data in a way that's meaningful. And then we come back, and everyone that's in the STAT seminar has to do a presentation for their class. If they do a project that's for an actual company, they have to do a presentation for those folks. So then it's the idea, the 5th tool is you have to be able to present those data, present those findings in a way that's meaningful to the people who aren't necessarily the smartest people in the room, right? Who aren't the computer scientists and who aren't the mathematicians. So I'm going to shift gears now a little bit and talk to you about some of the projects and some of the exemplars, some of the things, especially in terms of the Orlando Magic, some of the things that we would aspire for our students. And then talk a little bit about some current projects, and then we'll turn it over to Cabral in just a few minutes. So the Orlando Magic are truly the paragon of data analytics, business intelligence, especially in the National Basketball Association. Jay Riola is a Trinity graduate, class of 2006, and he was the first Trinity graduate who was hired to begin working in what is now a growing industry. The Orlando Magic 3 years ago had 3 people in business intelligence. They now have 8. And Jay Riola was their second hire in that area. He's also done an outstanding job of helping other Trinity grads along the way. Dwight Lutz, who's also a Trinity graduate, has just been hired as a player ops on the player ops analytics side for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He had been working in the NBA office, and it was Jay reaching back and bringing him along. The next young lady that I'm going to talk about, Jay reached back and brought her along. But what I want to just highlight a little bit about what's impressive, and this is intentionally blurry because it's like crazy so much data, but what's impressive about what the Magic do is this is one algorithm that they use in order to predict season ticket holder retention. And they are now up to about 85%, with 85% accuracy, they can predict one of their fence sitters, somebody who's on the middle, whether that person is going to renew or not. They use things like game attendance, what time do you come into the arena, how much money do you spend at the concession stands, and they create this, and again, with about 85% accuracy. I was speaking with him this morning, and one of the things he said that they're now the first in the NBA to start using some of the technology. They're using push notifications. This morning, they sent push notifications out to what they call at-risk season ticket holders, and they're upgrading their season tickets to better seats in the arena that night. Right? You might not be able to do that in the Spurs at the AT&T Center, but they're utilizing technology in a way that is making better decisions and is helping them make more money. Right? So again, I just want to give a shout out to Jay because of what he's done in terms of blazing a trail for Trinity students and being a great alumnus, reaching back and helping those along the way. The next young lady I want to talk about is Brittany Habe. She graduated from Trinity just 2 years ago, 2015, and she was the first stat seminar. She came to Cabral and I, She came to Cabral and I. She's an econ major, captain of the softball team. She went to O'Connor High School here in town. She knew she wanted to pursue a career in analytics and knew she didn't have the skill set to do it. So she said, I'm an econ major. It's second semester of my senior year. I'm captain of the softball team. Let's do something else during that semester. And so Cabral and I guided her through a senior capstone project where she applied a home court advantage to the Oracle method that he's going to talk about in a few minutes. And she improved the prediction accuracy of the Oracle method from 67% to 70%. That is when you're talking about predicting NBA games, that is a significant outcome. And what that does is it's an increase of correct predictions for about 30 extra correct games per year. Right? So Brittany, outstanding job in her senior capstone presentation. After graduation, she earned a 1-year fellowship with the San Francisco 49ers, the only woman that worked in the player operations side. After completing the fellowship, she's been hired. She now works at the NFL Network, where she's an NFL Next Gen Stats researcher. In that role, she analyzes the NFL Next Gen Stats gathered from every play, every team, every player, and she turns all of that in and she gives it to the folks who are going to be talking on camera so they know it sounds like they know what they're talking about. Right? So really proud of Brittany. I know she's going to do great things, and she has already, even though she's been gone less than 2 years, she's already done what great Trinity alumni do, and she's reached back and is helping some students as well. A couple of the current projects that we're working on. I'm a season ticket holder for the San Antonio Stars, so like shameless plug for the Stars, right? Super happy that Ruth Riley is the GM now, great new coach. Anyway, 2 of our Trinity students, one math major and one mathematical finance major, are working with Ruth Riley, the new GM, and helping her develop a model using game data and practice data to help her make better player personnel decisions. Who to draft, what players to pursue in free agency, how much money do I offer them on contracts. So we're really excited to see what Mac and I can't remember the name of the other student, Danielle come up with to help Ruth, again, especially as a season ticket holder. So I'm hoping I'm locked in at this price right now. So, I mentioned the Valero Alamo Bowl. I don't know if you can see that. So you see the Oracle method there did not get the matchup right, Oklahoma, USC. But it's okay. We learn by failure. One of our students, Ben Nunez, football student athlete, worked with Cabral, really kind of took over running the algorithms for this. And again, this is this idea that we don't get it right all the time. And what do we learn from failure? So Ben sits back down with Cabral. What did I do wrong? What could I have plugged in differently here? And so this is just one of the examples for me that it's, in some ways, it's almost better for Ben that he got it wrong, because now he knows that in life you will fail and you have to make some adjustments. Right? The Trinity Athletics Department, or some future projects. In particular, we've got Coach Paul McGinley with the men's soccer program here tonight. Right? One of the things Coach McGinley is particularly interested in is how can we make some recommendations to the NCAA for making a better ranking system. Anybody that knows anything about D3 soccer, west of the Mississippi, you might as well be in Tahiti, right? And so what ends up happening is teams in the Southwest region don't get really a real fair shake in terms of hosting games and seeding for playoff time. So we're hoping to find some students who are really interested in tackling that problem. Coach Harrison and the women's staff are actually really interested for them in how we can use player analytics to help them refine the recruitment process. Right? You got millions of people who are potential applicants. How do we get them down, and how do we be more efficient with respect to that? So now that we have an overview of what we're trying to accomplish with some of our projects, let me shift focus to the method a little bit. And this is about where my level of math ends, okay? So I'm going to turn it over to the true mathematician. But the general idea of ranking historically has been based on group decision selection methods, right? You have a plate of 20 cookies. How do you know which cookie is the best? I don't even know what cookie's at the bottom, right? This is hard. George Miller, in his paper, The Magical Number 7, talked about that the conscious mind can only deal with small chunks of data at a time. Plus or minus 2 in the number 7 is really where the magic zone is. The thinking mind is ideal at working with small amounts of data. Add too much data and we try to grossly oversimplify and we make suboptimal decisions. Right? In the world of sports, those of you who have been athletes or who were athletes, right, we often end up thinking too much, and that's what leads to this choking complex, right? The idea of becoming consciously incompetent instead of unconsciously competent. Unfortunately, for the rational mind, for the human conscious mind, more information doesn't necessarily lead to better decisions. It just makes people more overconfident. See, I have more data. I must be right. What experiments have shown is that people still make the decisions based on the small amounts of data. All of the new data that come in, they look for confirmatory evidence of the previous assumption or previous decision that they've come to. The brain simply can't ignore irrelevant information, and therefore we're very open to suggestions. Like thinking the Patriots were going to lose. Who thought that really? No way. Cabral's going to talk about that in a little bit. Right? So how do we solve this dilemma? Kendall Tao in 1955 did some original research. Theirs was on wine, much more fun with cookies. Cabral usually uses this with students, so we think it's better to show the cookie, right? But if you're given a selection of 20 cookies, if you're just making one-on-one choices, it's much easier. I know that chocolate chip is better than that cinnamon thing, right? It's important to keep in mind, something, right? Snickerdoodle, right? Sorry. It's Girl Scout season. Yeah. It is important to keep in mind, though, with this method, and this is one of the things Cabral is going to talk about, is there are implications for home bias and implications for order preferences. What order those cookies come up might lead me to make different decisions, right? So, here's our big plate of cookies. As of January 19th, Big 12 men's basketball, and this we couldn't have done, this we were so lucky that this was on, we happened to be sitting in the office on this day, right? January 19th, look at the rankings for the Big 12 men's basketball, right? We're making this up, right? 6-0, 5-0, all the way down. How do you rank these teams? In particular, the 4 teams that are 3-3. How do you know if you're going to predict the game, when TCU plays Texas Tech, how are you making that choice? How are you making the choice, quite frankly, when Kansas State is playing West Virginia, right? They're too bunched up. And this is, again, this is our big plate of cookies. So I'm going to turn it over to Cabral to talk about how do we actually use pair comparisons, how do they use pair comparisons to make some good predictions for this tournament and others. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so this shows what we mean about the 5-2 player. We need two people, really. One to talk about the questions. I'll talk about the mathematics, and Jacob comes in to teach us how to do a presentation, right? So how to make this look so good. So here is the problem. So we have to rank. So let's talk about some mathematics. How do you frame the mathematics? And here I have some rulers and people that I would like to rank. So the ruler here is the metric in which you measure how good a person is. And the relative height is how good each person is. So the ranking is the ordering. And the rating is the value or the quality you assign to each person. Okay? So the rating is a number that you can truly measure. And the ranking, you just say, okay, one person is first, one is second. So an example here is the win percentage. So the win percentage is really the number of wins divided by the number of games you played. So that gives you a value. And if you tie, it's a half a win or half a loss, or maybe it's a full win or a full loss, that's up for grabs. But that gives you one rating method. So if you do that, of course you can rank the Big 12. You have Kansas 6-0, so their rating is 1. TCU, their rating now is 0.5. So that really didn't do anything, right? We just had the same problem. Because we still have now clear top 3, bottom 3, teams tied at 3-3. So this is the flaw when you do mathematics. People want a better method. And just because I put some fancy mathematics, you're going to have a magic solution. That's not how it works. If you need a better method, you need better data. I am not a magician. I am just a mathematician. All right? So I need more. Okay, so to get more, I would like to view this differently. So to view this differently, I'm going to view this as a network method. So I'm, by training, as Rick mentioned, I'm a topologist, I'm a geometer, so I'm a very visual person. I talk with my hands a lot. So here, this is how I want to view a game between Kansas State and Iowa State. So Kansas State lost at Iowa. So I'm going to put an arrow from Kansas State to Iowa State. Okay? So if you receive the arrow, you're the winner. So it goes from loser to winner. That's the convention. So at week 1, these were the games that had been played on the Big 12. Now I know who won, who lost each game. Week 1, there were 5 games. So you can see Texas lost to Kansas State, Oklahoma State lost to West Virginia. Okay? Week 2, we now have more games. So that week, you play 2 games. Okay? So here's week 3. Right? So if you need a better method, we have better data. So here's week 4. So January 19th, this is the situation we have. Okay? So this is the data. This is better, I say, because we know who played who and the outcomes. So when we talk about win and losses, what we're really talking about is a local analysis. We just look at the picture, losing all the information that we had on the network. So the number of arrows that come in, those are your wins. Okay? The heads coming in are your wins. And the edges leaving, those are your losses. So Texas is 1 and 5, 1 arrow coming in, 5 coming out, that's the losses. Baylor 5 and 1. So in the Big 12 network, now I would like to look at the strength of schedule. And at least here you can see that underneath you still have the whole network. So if I look at Baylor, I focus on Baylor and the interaction of Baylor. And now, those are the red edges. And now I look at all the teams that Baylor played. And the opponent's record, I look at the local information just for Baylor. All right? So I went from the local analysis for win and losses to one extra step. Okay, so what if we talk about opponents' records? Opponents' records. Opponents' records. Can we do that? Sure. Now we're talking about, can you rank a network? All right? So, these days, if you have a question, what do? You Google it, right? All right. So how do you Google how to rank a network? Turns out that Google is ranking a network. So how does one Google how Google works? So that is weird, but that's what we're actually trying to do. So let's do that. So first, some history. This is not new. In 1913, Andrei Markov, he worked on a mathematical theory for that. Our chair today, he couldn't be here, Dr. Olofsson. He actually teaches a course right now on stochastic processes, where we teach the mathematics of that in the math department. Maurice Kendall, that Jacob mentioned earlier, 1955. He was the first one really to adapt these methods for ranking applications. And again, he was looking at wine comparisons, fun exercise, but we do cookies and sports. And you move forward many years in 1998. That's when Larry Page and Sergey Brin began with Google. Now, many people here may remember Alta Vista, Lycos, S. Jeeves, right? Those were very good methods, but they were very slow. Now, in the 90s, internet was actually slow. You had a modem. So we didn't notice the speed, right? So they did the computation while the ranking method was running in the background. So the internet was slow, so it didn't matter if the method was slow. But in 1998, around that time, we were having better network connections, we had better speeds. So these two guys, they realized, okay, we need to do something better. And their idea is this: you are only as important as the nose that points to you. You are only as important as the people that know you, right? So you can say, this talk is really important. We have Danny here, we have Broadway Bank here. This is important, right? We have a bunch of amazing people here. So this talk must be important, right? We make these connections all the time. Tell me who you know, and I'll tell you who you are, right? I mean, we don't have children, but when I used to go out as a kid, I would tell my mom, I'm going to this place with my good buddy, Eduardo. I had to have my same name. Oh, with him? Of course you can go. Mom, I'm going to go out with Gina. Oh, absolutely, you can go, right? So depending, you are the same person, but if you go out with Gina, oh yeah, you can go. Oh, but I'm going out with Alice. No, you can't go with Alice. It's the same person. So that's the idea. So the rating of a team should be distributed to those who beat you. So I'm going to look at this very simple example, and this is the only math I'll talk the whole slides, okay? So this is the math talk. So if you don't want to see the math, please enjoy the meal. I'm sure it's amazing, okay? So here's the math. The rating, it's going to be obtained by solving a system of equations. The rating for each team are 1, or 2, or 3, or 4. So in this example, team number 1 lost to team number 2 and team number 3. Because he lost to 2 people, half of its importance is going to go to team number 2, and half is going to go to team number 3. So the importance of team number 2 is added by half of the importance of team number 1. Next, team number 2 only lost to team number 4. So it gives, in the last equation you see, all of its importance to team number 4. Team number 3 and team number 4, they lost to 3 other teams. So you evenly split that. So the idea here is the ratings are found by solving a system of equations. So if anyone ever asks you, why do I need algebra in high school? There you go. That's why. Now, should we teach that this way? Absolutely. I work with an organization called TIFA, Texas Youth Football Association, and I rank their teams. I'm actually in the reality show Friday Night Tykes, so we do work with them. And every time I'm there, I make sure to tell the kids, these are from 5 years old to 13, the math you're learning, this is fun, but the math you're learning is about ranking, so you can do that. There is a purpose to the math you're doing. So I'm hoping we can make some changes with these kids that grow up saying, I hate mathematics. No, you don't. You just don't know how to use it yet, okay? Now, the actual solution is via linear algebra, but really, it gets complicated, you may see. To get to this point here, to actually solve, you may want to attend the stat seminar. I recommend. We have a couple of people here, so you should come. And we welcome people from the community as well to come. We had Maggie here, Maggie Just. She came and gave a talk. Thank you. All right. So, what is the Oracle method? Okay. Do I just go at night and get to a trend and just think about how to do this? So what is the oracle? So the oracle in Greek mythology is this being that you go to seek guidance, right? It's mysterious. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. Sometimes you just don't know how to interpret the consultation of the oracle. So what is the oracle? So the oracle is a method that we want to introduce in a network for consultation. I would like to add to this network information about who you play, your opponents. That's the strength of schedule. When you play, is an early loss better than a late loss? Right? Does it matter? Some sports it does, some sports it does not. Where you play, can we talk about home field advantage? That's what Brittany Habby did. How you play. If you win by 50 points, is it different than win by what point? It's still a win, but the quality of the points that you scored should matter, right? So that is what we incorporate to the oracle. So those are somewhat subjective. So we make this assumption. Some I made, some the students are trying to make. So that's their project. What do you think is important for that project, right? In sports, everybody understands sports. So I want to train students to develop assumptions on sports. So when they go out and work in a bank, work in a corporation, they can understand how that organization works and they can make the decisions. Because I cannot train in a company. I can only do sports. So why should you care about this? Why is it better? Well, in 2014, working together with Dr. Misali, he's another mathematician at Trinity, and Dr. Tegmeyer, he was a visiting professor at Trinity. We wrote a paper about the NFL, Journal of Quantitative Analysis in Sports, and we show that this is better than any other computer method out there. In fact, we did better than the ESPN experts predicting NFL. So, that was nice. Thank you. So, the Oracle method is customizable for each sports. So to let you know, the NFL, we use margin of victory. That matters a lot in the NFL. In the NBA, where you play matters. That's what Habby did. So she saw that if I give an advantage to who plays, so she didn't call a home advantage. That's how you think about the presentation, the 5-2 player. Habby called a home assist because it's basketball, right? So she's thinking ahead. How do you sell this method? Home assist. College and NCAA, what matters, turns out, is conference play. So early schedule is important and late schedule. But the middle games, sometimes they don't matter. You play a bunch of cupcakes. For Division 1, maybe Division 3, we're looking at that. That's different, right? So every sport can be different. Now, you can also do biomathematics. And this is the amazing thing of Trinity here. We work with lizard hierarchy. There's a beautiful photo by Gina. Let's highlight that. I don't know if Mackenzie is here. She replied. I don't know if she's here. So she is the young lady on the left. And Dr. Johnson, she actually went to the wrong silo. I shouldn't say that, but we're recording. But she is the collaborator in the biology department. And we work with two undergraduates, Jordan Bush and Mackenzie. And we trying to look now at sports in the sense in biology. How do you rank people or lizards? So that was published last year. And in that picture, putting the helmet on wasn't that hard, but putting the straps in the lizards, those were difficult. Yeah. So thank you, Gina, for that photo. So now remember the Big 12? Yeah. Yeah, the straps are really hard to put on, but that's okay. Yeah. The helmet, not so bad. Okay. So let's go back to the Big 12. So in the Big 12, we had 4 teams in January 19th that were tied. So using the Oracle method now, we can differentiate those teams. Texas Tech is the 4th team, TCU the 5th, Iowa State, and Kansas. So even though they're tied, because of their strength of schedule, because the way the Oracle values victories, we can change them. Now, if we look at the PageRank, which the PageRank is Google's method, we get a slightly different order. And I would like to highlight there Oklahoma. Oklahoma, in the PageRank, becomes the 4th ranked team. Even though they're 2 and 4, Google thinks they're the 2nd best team. Now, what happens there is Oklahoma beat West Virginia, right, which is one of the top teams. So PageRank gives too much importance to what we perceive as upsets, right? So you have to make a decision. How much do you value upsets, right? Now, if we look at the rankings as of February 5th, these are the updated rankings. Now we have 2 teams, 6 and 4, 5 and 5, and 4, 6, 2 of each. And our top 5 coincides with the top 5 in PageRank. Our bottom 5 also coincides with PageRank. There are transpositions. There are slight differences. But what is nice to see here, with more games, we went from 6 games, we have now more data. We see that the teams 6 and 4, West Virginia is above Iowa in the Oracle and PageRank. Both teams are 5 and 5, Kansas State and TCU. They are in the same relative order in PageRank. So sometimes the methods don't change that much, right? They still keep the same relative orders, right? So more games, usually the methods may try to converge. But why should you care? What is better? Well, I would like to argue that the Oracle is better because in the last several weeks, we were 10 and 10 predicting, and PageRank was 8 and 12. So not great. We just put the Big 12 tournament. In general, we do quite well. It's around 65, 70%. That's fine. But I want to highlight 2 games. So we make different predictions. So Iowa State and Oklahoma, we picked Iowa State. PageRank picked Oklahoma. So then the question is why these 2 methods are picking differently, right? So one of the projects that I'm proposing to some of the students is why different methods pick differently. And at least in the seminar, some students really want to know about the Cowboys. So does the Oracle like the Cowboys or not? So these are some projects. So look at the differences. Which games ranking methods pick differently. Now, here, these are the current rankings for the college basketball as we're getting ready for March Madness. And at this time, of course, the prediction for the Final Four are the top 4 teams. So we do predict Gonzaga, Villanova, Kansas, and North Carolina will be in the Final Four. And in the women's, Connecticut, Mississippi State, Notre Dame, and Baylor. And go Irish, of course. But now, you can follow us at the rank.balreira.com. It's very small there, but we have a website, we update. I send a newsletter every week. I know it's a shameless plug, but in the fall, we had 2 students, communication students, who said, we want to get involved in this. We can't really do the math. Okay, we have a place for you. You write for the site. So these were 2 students who were actually very clever and funny. And if you followed us last semester, they were writing for the site. They were describing why the teams were up and down. So even if you don't like math, we can find a place for you writing about sports. So why last week the women's didn't really change the rankings, but the men's all went up and down? Last week, if I had shown you this presentation last week, the women's were all over the place, but the men's weren't, right? So what happens week to week? Is it relevant? So that's the type of questions that we need the students to answer, right? I can teach them the math, but they can answer and talk about these questions in a beautiful way. Okay, now, how do we involve people in this project? So in the spring 16, we did the March Madness Challenge. So here you can see the results. So Rick Hill, he won the challenge. So Rick Hill picked Villanova. I say he was lucky, okay? He's the only one who got the title, he won. The big star here is Madeline Piper. So she's here today, and big hands. Madeline, can you stand up? Thank you. So this is amazing. I had no idea who the number 2 was, Madeline, and then Jacob told me, she's a future Tiger. She got in this competition, she got a hold of this somehow, she got the message, she registered, she made her picks. So everyone here, you should be making your picks. It will come out, I'll put it in the website, in the newsletter, mid-March, right by spring break, you can also participate. And Josh Ingram, he's a basketball player, so he also participates. Now, as far as methods is concerned, I would like to highlight the number 5, the tide. That's the Oracle S. Miss Sally entered that method. And that is the one that works best for college basketball. And that is the one that I wait early season, late season. What is happening right now, no one cares. And that's how that method works and is amazing. So why do we play these games right now? Is the season too long? Don't know. More projects for the stat seminar. Now, so that was in the spring. One-time competition is during spring break, difficult to get people. So in the fall, we wanted to do an NFL challenge. So we did every week the challenge to see if you could beat the Oracle. So these are the results for week 12. So every week, if you participate in the challenge, you get an email from me, twice actually. Here, reminds to enter your picks. This particular week, you can see Ben Newhouse, he's an alum, he got it first. Manny Gonzalez, also an alum, is now at the UT Texas, so he works there. And Craig is an alum that before this competition I didn't know, but we chat every week on Twitter. He's a great guy. So because of this now, so he chats all the time. So he's a huge Cowboy fan, he would always pick the Cowboys. That's fine. We were able to get faculty and staff involved. Kevin McIntyre, professor in psychology, Damon Bullis in the marketing team. So they also participated. And I'll just highlight here, if any of you here did participate, thank you for participating. If you participated, you noticed that in the first week, when you made your picks, there was a personality survey, okay? Because here at Trinity, we have to research about everything. So how you get a math professor and a psychology professor to work together? Well, you do a personality trait about how you pick football. So that's Professor McIntyre. So we're gonna analyze this data, and then we're gonna probably write something and get some students to do this for us, all right? So what is in your personality that makes you do well picking teams? And then we have 2 students, Dylan Wolf, he's a student, and the QB rating stat, that's one of the methods that the student in the seminar was developing. So he added the quarterback rating in the method. Okay, so how did we do in the Super Bowl? So now, no one could have predicted how it happened, right? We couldn't predict that. But we did predict that the New England was going to win. And what is amazing here, and it fascinates me, is that people in the challenge, they were picking Atlanta, right? So people's knowledge were on Atlanta, but the computers were on New England. And this is why what I do is not for betting. Betting lines is about perception. So if you were gonna bet on this game, you would bet on Atlanta, because people are going for Atlanta. What I do is not betting. So do not really take me to Vegas. I will tell you what you should or should not do. I can do that. But people picked Atlanta in the challenge. But the computer, the mathematics, talk about New England. So this is what we do in the stats seminar, okay? We try to get the 5-2 players. Jacob and I, we couldn't do this by ourselves. And I need him to do what he does, and he needs me to do what I'm doing. But this is fantastic, and we talk about what we do, but I want to show and tell what we do. And I would like now to welcome Liza, so she can talk about exactly what we're trying to do here at Trinity. All right. Liza.
Good evening. We're so glad to have you all here. So to start off, a little bit about me. I am a tennis player at Trinity, like they said. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm a current senior. I'm a business analytics and technology major, sport management minor. So I didn't really know kind of what I wanted to do coming into college. All I knew was that I just love sports and I wanted to get involved in it somehow. And so I started taking some business classes, and I came across the stats seminar with Dr. Cabral, and so that's really what cultivated my love of analytics and sports, combining those two. And so from there, I learned a little bit about coding. And I remember freshman year, my dad told me, oh, you should go into computer science, especially as a girl, that's a great field for you to go into. And I was like, no way, that's too nerdy, there's no way I'm gonna do that. I called him 2 years later after a project with Dr. Cabral, telling him how much I love coding, and as parents usually are, he was right. So this led to a project I did with Dr. Cabral. Last semester, I analyzed the free agent class for the 2017 free agents for the MLB. And I did this in part with Jeremy Wolf, who is now in the minor leagues for the New York Mets. So we wanted to figure out what statistics correlated most with salary. We wanted to try to predict salary for these new players coming in. And so we didn't really know what we were doing. He was a communication major, I was business analytics, but I hadn't really gotten too involved in it. I wasn't too involved in the coding, I just knew that this is something I wanted to do. So we were both really eager to learn, we just didn't know kind of the concepts behind it. So we had the application, we dove in head first and started learning about how we could start to predict what these salaries were going to be. So we used a program called MATLAB, and through the guidance of Dr. Cabral, we're able to start to learn about this. And it took us a whole semester to come up with a presentation, and we found some of the most important statistics that we thought would contribute to salary. And gathering the data was the most tedious part, and that's something that I've learned. About 80% of a project in data analytics is gathering the data and cleaning it, which is taking out any blanks you may have or any false entries. So basically, what we did was collect all this data from a website, Baseball Reference, put it into Excel, and so we had this huge Excel spreadsheet of just numbers and names. And looking at it, it's kind of daunting, but we were able to import it into MATLAB, which is this computer program that helped us analyze it. So we would do methods such as logistic regression, stepwise regression, big fancy words which didn't really mean a lot to me at the time. But through my classes, now that I've taken a few classes, I've started to really understand what these words have meant. And so it took us a whole semester to figure these out, like I said, and then I decided to kind of recreate our project, and making this graph took me about an hour. So I went from a semester's worth of work to probably about a week if I was able to do it through what I've learned. So I kind of dove in head first, not really sure where I was going with it, but then I was able to learn the concepts and the theories behind it in my classes. And so I came to Dr. Cabral the other day, and I told him, I said, I don't know how we did that project before because I know exactly what to do now. All I have to do is a stepwise regression to figure out the most important variables, and then a linear regression to plot it. And so he was very pleased to see that I had come to that conclusion on my own. And so this is the plot that I came up with. What I did here was plot So basically we did the previous year's salary with their stats. So this is hits on 2016 salary. And because the line goes up, we see a little bit of a positive correlation. And so what this kind of comes out to is that around almost $200,000 for each additional hit they would get. So this is kind of a monetary value to put on the importance of certain stats that baseball would have. So this is a good way for you to kind of conceptualize how it works, what kind of things we did. And so so the amazing thing for me was being able to learn these concepts and then actually apply them in a way that I had already learned, but I just didn't know it yet. And so going back to what Dr. Tingle does, the experiential learning, I was able to fail. And at first, especially in high school, I saw that as extremely daunting. I knew that failure was not something I wanted to experiment with, but coming to Trinity, I've learned that it's okay to fail and that, more importantly, it's a good thing to fail. It should be a part of learning because it gives you an opportunity to grow. And that's what I've experienced here. I've had internship opportunities, which I'll talk about in a second. But if I hadn't dove in headfirst with this analytics project with Dr. Cabral and then gone into my classes, I wouldn't have been able to put together that's what I actually did. Instead, I learned different methods, I learned what we were doing, and then I learned the concepts behind them, and was able to come to that conclusion on my own, which I wouldn't have understood otherwise. And so the real-world application, I was able to get 2 amazing opportunities this past summer. I was an intern at KSAT News, and we have Chris from KSAT here tonight with us. So I worked under the leadership of Dr. Cabral, and we analyzed television ratings for KSAT. So we were able to gather data from Nielsen. I would watch the news, create an Excel sheet, and we would analyze this data, kind of figuring out how they did compared to their competitors, when people came in, when they left, trying to figure out the best times to put certain genres within the newscast. And then another internship I had was with the San Antonio Spurs. I worked in their marketing department last summer until this past December, and I was doing market research and fan analysis. So these opportunities wouldn't have come up if it wasn't for just the kind of experience that I was able to gain at Trinity through the STAT seminar and under the guidance of Dr. Tingle and Dr. Cabral. And they don't know that I'm going to say this, and they didn't pay me to say this, but they have been 2 of my biggest role models and mentors here at Trinity, and I cannot thank them enough for all they've done. They've taught me the importance of leadership, the meaning of learning, and the desire to go out into the world and be the best version of myself. And they've provided me the tools that will hopefully motivate me and go out into my future career to ultimately become that 5-tool player like they were talking about.
Well, thank you all. Now you see what we do with the STAT seminar and all this program. So, obrigado. Obrigado for coming.
And before we get to questions, I'm an Oklahoma Choctaw, so chipi sala chike.
That's it. That's it. If you have any questions, we'll love to hear from you. What are you? If you have any questions about the method.
Just kind of collect the question on tables.
Sure.
Can you predict the probability of another Mississippi miracle?
We'll work on that. We'll work on that. Yeah. Those are difficult to predict, but we'll work on it.
I was curious what the majority of the students in your STAT class, what the majority of their majors are.
So these are math majors, CS majors, and BAT. And what I will highlight on that is these are type of students like Liza, who she would not be a math major, right? So she would never know me. And she may not be just a pure business student, right, and not experiential learning necessarily just to know Tingle, but all of a sudden she kind of got to know the two of us and then got in this program. So these are the type of students, CS, math, and BAT. Those are what we get. And hello, Mackenzie, you are here, yeah?
It's my BAT.
That's Business Analytics and Technology. So that's the major in the School of Business. So we attract a lot of these students, and we have a couple here. One here, Patrick.
Thanks for coming, Patrick.
Thanks.
So I heard a rumor that there was a Trinity administrator last year who actually beat the Oracle. Is that true?
We try not to talk much about that. We try to downplay that. So the challenge began really last year with the Trinitonian. We were invited. Jacob, would you? It's hard to admit that, but
This hurts Cabral so much. So there was a Trinitonian contest, Dean Tuttle, the two of us, Dr. Anderson, and I think a student, the Oracle, and then an alum every week. And Dr. Anderson won by, I think, like 30 games or something.
oh, yes.
So NCAA uses RPI. Do you think that's a good statistical analysis of where teams should be ranked?
No. Because, so what RPI does, RPI looks at your strength of schedule and your opponent's records only. And the NCAA looks at if you win away, that win is no longer one win, is 1.3 wins. And if you win at home, it's 0.7. So what the RPI does basically says you got to win on the road. And it only really looks at your record.
Yeah,
so,
but in an NCAA tournament, you have to win on a neutral court. So
you have to win on, sure.
That's right.
But we have better methods just like these, and there are several of those that can look at the strength of schedule of the entire network of teams. We just don't have to award away games and home games. So can we do better? Maybe. But
Are you able to quantify upset with this modeling, and if so, how do you account for it in the overall model?
So can we quantify upsets in the model? So sure, you can quantify by understanding how different the rankings of the teams are when they come in, right? And when you beat someone, if you're a really bad team and you beat someone really good, you should get a lot of credit, right? So think about the internet. So if CNN all of a sudden decided all our links are going to go to Cabral's site, right? So my site would become the most important site in the world, right? Because I had the full power of CNN to me. So if a bad team beats a good team, my site doesn't have a lot of links, by the way, but that's okay. We're improving. So if a bad team beats a very good team, right, you gain all the importance of the good team, right? Because they're much better than you. So what the Oracle does is says, well, that could have been a lucky shot. So we don't weight that win very much. So if we see a huge differential, we say, well, you won, but you need to win more until we believe that you're actually really good. So that's assumption. So we quantify that way. So it works well because we do better predicting games because we do not overvalue upsets. But that's an assumption in the system.
I noticed there's a student who used the QBR rating, so that's looking at a specific position to determine if that's going to impact the game. Are there other positions in other sports, like say the LeBron James effect for the Cavs, that are really going to shift what you're doing and your predictive ability within a certain team or a certain sport?
Yes, there are positions, but if you want a better method, you need better data, right? So what the kids during the San Antonio Stars, they are getting better data for the college, for the women's basketball. So we are using each position of each player to try to determine what is in each team, how do the guards interfere, how do the forwards, how do the centers. So I need to get a lot more data, right? So as one person, it's very hard to me. So I can get now the full power of the stat seminar and get the students to get more data, and we can do that. But we're working on that problem for the WNBA. That's a project. Yeah.
Well, so why wouldn't we use Oracle to bet?
Will you share your winnings with me? So the question is, will you use the Oracle to bet? So if you just use the Oracle rankings, and I feel particularly positive. If you use the Oracle rankings, which we send out every week to bet, you will do about 55% accuracy. So if anyone here bet on any games, you'll know that 55% is mistakes.
Is that straight up against the spread?
Yeah. Okay, that's against the spread, right? So yeah. So against the spread, we do 55%. And really, it's just doing the easy regressions that you do, all the usual modeling. So you would need a little bit more. But really, betting is not a mathematical ranking. Betting is the perception that people have about the outcome, right? Is the Falcons issue. People think that the Falcons are better. The classical example is Philadelphia. Anyone from Philly here? No? So if Philly is in a game, Philly is favorite. Because people in Philadelphia, they will bet for Philly no matter what. Right? So even if they're terrible, right, people will bet for it. So you can't use a ranking method to bet. So that's where the psychology comes in. And I'm a mathematician, so that's why I need these guys.
So the idea is more people are putting money on the team they think is going to win, and so other more people bet on the team because more people are betting.
That's correct.
Okay.
You shift, yeah, so when you do a betting, you shift the line to induce betting on other team. That's how it works.
Okay, so let's shift away from the team concept. Let's shift it away to player concept. Okay, so fantasy football is based on individual data. So quantitatively, how do you basically do the math on each individual player? If you do it in a basketball, you get a forward against a forward or a guard against a guard. How do you do that? I mean, you just do a math on how many points are scoring or assists, or how do you do that? But you can really narrow it down to player against player and maybe get a better score to who's going to win or not.
Yeah, so to add the idea of a player, now you try to deconstruct the team and how each player adds value to the team. How are the interactions? So one way is you can just simulate the games, see how that works, and you can write a simulation for it. But the problem when you write the simulations, and you really need to now know all the box score play-by-play data to do a really good job. Can we do that? Sure.
But you have anomalies of turnovers and stuff like that you can't predict, right?
You know statistically, you predict on average how many turnovers you're going to have because you have the historical data. So you can try to now simulate what is going to happen in the game. Right? So that's how we simulate chances of winning. That's how a few years back we simulated that the Spurs were going to win the championship because you use historical data and you make the simulations.
I have two questions. One of them is, all this sounds very interesting and I'm all about sports, but is this applicable, this Oracle program, applicable to fields such as politics, such as environmental issues?
Yeah, I don't want to answer the questions.
No,
Jacob.
it's all you.
So, is it applicable? Yes. Can we apply this to politics? Absolutely. Now, the problem here is with sports, it's much easier and nicer to have an understanding. Once you apply for politics, people get much more emotional, right? I mean, just look at what happened to Nate Silver and his predictions. He got really attacked because people thought, oh, you're predicting Hillary's going to win, so you must be a Hillary guy, you against Trump. So I am not ready to move to that. Okay? So Tatsuna Shiwaka. He's a political scientist and he wants to do that. If he wants to do that, I'll stand behind him and do it. But I would like to choose my battles for sports because it's easier to train students because everyone knows about sports. I feel that politics and company, it's unfair for me to go and ask, give me data about your company for the students to train. We can't do that. We have an opportunity with KSAT, okay, we get real data, but I can't give that to every student. But with sports I can, and it's non-controversial. That's, unfortunately, I'm avoiding controversies here for that. But maybe you want to have a word on other application?
No. I'm just going to say I feel like Hootie and the Blowfish opening for Rolling Stones right here, so let's do it.
My other question, and I just wanted, it's a curiosity question. Is Oracle patent and does it belong to Trinity University?
Oracle is not patent. We do have copyright on the Oracle, but it's an open source, it's an academic work. It's completely open, so you can go right now and download the Oracle, and it's not patent.
Thank you.
I have a question for Jacob.
Yeah.
Sorry, Cabral. Hey, Jacob, given the success of the amazing Trinity Tigers women's basketball team, how do you apply women's basketball with your season tickets to the Stars?
I'm not entirely sure what your question is, but I'm a huge women's basketball fan.
I just wanted to switch it up.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Actually, interestingly enough, I guess I'll go ahead and say this out loud. The Oracle, even with Trinity's wins last week, still has Trinity second in the SCAC. So, all's not wonderful with the Oracle. Yeah. So, thank you. Yeah. Any other questions? Questions, Eliza? Or, well,
Who inputs the data? Like, how important is the data?
So the question is, who picks the data?
inputs it?
Yeah, so who inputs it? So right now, I do it in a way, so I can do it quite easily in 5 minutes. It's all the data is all sports, I can do it in 5 minutes. But the goal for the stats seminar is I want them to do it. And I want them to do what Liza did, take a whole day, a whole week to get the data, to prepare that, so they can learn how hard it is. Because that's really the hard part. It's getting the data. So I can do it easily, but I have a lot more experience than the students. So I want them to learn how to do that. And that's really hard. So it can take them a lot longer.
Yeah, so when we did the MLB baseball project, the hardest thing we had to learn was how hard it was to gather the data. So Cabral's not wrong when he says that. It took us a long time to figure out. So basically we used baseballreference.com, and we had to manually gather, we typed in the different players that were going to be free agents. We're able to pull up their stats in a CSV format, so that means basically it just pulls all these numbers with commas separated between them. And you can import that into Excel. So we created this huge Excel spreadsheet and had to manually enter all this data for all these different players. So once we had that, then we had our data. But then we had to format it. So you had to make sure there were no like blank cells in that would mess up a calculation app. You had to make sure that everything was labeled correctly. So we definitely learned the hard way that it does take a long time to do. But like you said, that's the way you learn, and that's the way like we learned how to do it well, yeah.
How many students participate in a stats seminar?
So right now we have 9 registered students. So it's a 1-hour seminar. And last semester we started with about 15, and it was for no credit. So here is the amazing thing. We started this 3 semesters ago. Okay, so the first 2 semesters was for no credit. So these Trinity students, Liza did that for no credit hour whatsoever. She would meet with me 1 hour a week with Jeremy. They couldn't make it to the actual seminar, which is late afternoon, 5:30 to 6:30. So we had to find another time to meet for no credit. And I had another 10 students every Wednesday night. And by the end of the semester, I would have about four. So we 12 to 4. But that's okay. I mean, again, these kids are not getting any credit. And we did this for 2 semesters. We began with 15, dwindled to 5. But these 5, they came every class. Ben Nunes, he was given a project for the Valderrama Bowl. Now he really wants to do it. So they found, these 5 kids who stayed, really found problems. This semester, we are doing for credit. And they really have to do a project. So these are 9 students. And this is the first semester where we are implementing the 5-2 player. So this is really, it's our seminar. I say, Jacob, this is our seminar because I am teaching them the mathematics, but I can't teach them to present. I can't teach them how to do what Liza does. I can teach her the math, and Jacob does the rest, right? So I know I'm answering all the questions, but trust me, here we have to thank Jacob. He is also integral part of all this project. I could not do this ever alone. I need Jacob to help me out. And we get 9 students. I expect it to be even more next semester.
Thank you all again for coming. Just what an amazing turnout. And I'm just really lucky to be a colleague with Cabral, somebody I think you get the sense that super high energy, super creative, really funny, unbelievably smart. And to be able to interact with him, to teach with him is really special. But it's one of the things that, again, I think makes Trinity an amazing place to work, an amazing place to live and to study, is Cabral, what he's talking about in terms of the energy he brings, and that's not atypical amongst our faculty. And I just, as an alum especially, I'm just beyond myself that I get to come to work every day with people like Cabral and then with students like Liza. So thank you all very much for coming.
Giving me this opportunity tonight, especially to Dr. Tingle and Dr. Cabral and everything they've done and taught me. I'm hoping to use this as I go out after I graduate in May. Hopefully I won't be unemployed by that point, but still working on that. But yeah, thank you again for coming tonight.
Thanks to all of you for joining us. Please think about coming to our 3rd and final part of the Food for Thought series with Poet Laureate Jenny Brown, who's also a Trinity professor. And enjoy your evening. Thank you.